live weather update, just to kind of give you a heads up of what we can expect over the next couple of days. Really, the short story for tonight: quiet conditions are expected across the region for New Year's Eve and for New Year's Day, or at least the majority of it. We will start to see some changes potentially as early as tomorrow night, but for the most part, our biggest issue for this evening will be the valley inversions, some fog, especially up in the northwest and parts of west central Montana, that will be having to keep a very close eye on. But what I will show you here really quick is the ridge of high pressure that is over western Montana, and really it's over the majority of the west as well. You can see that roughly in here. So I'm going to let this play for just a second as I get a few things organized here behind the scenes, but I shouldn't be too long. Should be ready to go with this in full here in about 30 seconds to a minute. Think we are pretty much good to go over here on my other screen. So I think with that, we'll get started. Again, Happy New Year's Eve. I hope you're having a great evening. I'll try to make this as brief as I can, especially since, again, for tonight and tomorrow, for the most part, the weather is going to be pretty quiet. So if you have any questions or comments as we go throughout this, certainly feel free to ask those in the chat section, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. So for the most part, this ridge of high pressure has kept western Montana quiet this week. We'll continue to do so as we head into tomorrow morning and starting 2026, but it does start to break down late tomorrow night and into Friday. Now, with the high pressure ridge in place, southwest Montana, we've been pretty mild the last couple of days. We were into the upper 30s and 40s this afternoon, and really for the most part, we're still sitting at those temperatures in the 30s, 38 in Dillon and 30 in Bozeman. But back off into northwest and west central Montana, that's where we've been stuck in the valley inversions. We've seen much colder air down at the surface and warmer air at our mid-elevation slopes and even at our mountain peaks than what we've been seeing in the valleys. So right now, Kalispell 24, Missoula at 25. We are looking at mostly clear skies towards Missoula, but we have been stuck in the low clouds and the fog for places like Kalispell and Polson. And you can see that fog really just starting to increase in its density up into the Flathead Valley, and that's going to continue to be an ongoing issue overnight tonight. Right now, visibility showing at the airport around 7 miles, but looking at that camera, as I go back to the camera there in Kalispell, I would say it's probably a little bit less than that right now. Now, up at the airport, it may be a little bit better, but it wouldn't surprise me that at some point tonight we see those visibilities down to a mile or even a half mile or less. And with these temperatures sitting around, sitting in the 20s, heading for the teens overnight, freezing fog is going to be a concern. Same thing towards Missoula. We may see a little bit of that later on tonight, but in areas that we do see the freezing fog, slick road conditions can't be ruled out, especially for our bridges and overpasses, as those will freeze up a little bit faster than the surface roads because of the air moving underneath and above the bridge, allowing it to cool down a little bit more quickly. But just if you're heading out this evening across northwestern west central Montana, outside of the fog issues and that potential for a few slick spots, not looking too bad. Just take it a little extra slow if you are hitting the roads. Southwest Montana, really, we're not looking at much problem, if any. Now, I do want to check one thing really quick while it's on my mind. I'm just going to look at the MDT map, see if there's any particular spots that are seeing some slick road conditions or some issues. Really, the only spots that I'm seeing are US 2, up from about Hungry Horse over towards Essex, Marias Pass, and then back down towards East Glacier Park, where we do have some icy patches on that stretch of US 2, a little bit sparse, but then also from areas south of Libby down towards Happy's Inn, and then over towards McGregor Lake before it transitions back over to primarily just wet roads. and then another stretch from about Trout Creek up through Knoxon and Heron, and then up Montana Highway 56 up towards Bull Lake. Outside of those areas, for the most part, we're looking at pretty quiet and dry conditions. One other area, US 12 from Lolo up over Lolo Pass. But most areas, we are looking at decent conditions on the roads, not dealing with any kind of major impacts as we go throughout the rest of the evening. There is one area of some patchy, snow-packed stretches along US 91 from just south of Gallatin Gateway down towards Big Sky. So as you head up into the mountains, a little bit of slick spots there. But overall, most areas are looking pretty decent. So again, the reason for all this has been that ridge of high pressure that has been over western Montana. But keep an eye on this low pressure system down to the south. That is going to be our weather maker that moves in as we head into tomorrow evening, and especially Friday into Saturday. It's a lot more impressive right now than what it will be as it gets into over the next, say, 24 to 36 hours. So overall, we are going to be quiet as we head into the new year. So I'll be the first to wish you all a happy new year, even though we aren't quite there just yet. But we are on the way to 2026, just about 4.5 hours away. 4.5 hours? Yeah, that's about right. Just short of 4.5 hours away from the new year. So what we can expect for tomorrow, or starting off tonight and into tomorrow morning, lows into the teens and 20s for most locations. Looking at 17 in Kalispell, 15 in Missoula, 24 in Butte, and 27 in Bozeman. Mostly clear to partly cloudy skies are expected, though Kalispell, those low clouds are going to be sticking around. Same story likely for Polson as well, with that potential for freezing fog, and even down towards Missoula, Hamilton, places along Interstate 90, US or Highway 200 could be dealing with some of those issues as well. No problems, though, in southwest Montana. Now, for tomorrow, clouds will be increasing as we head into the afternoon. Temperatures in southwest Montana still running anywhere from about 10 to nearly 20 degrees above average, looking at 40s for Butte and Bozeman with those partly to mostly cloudy skies. Kalispell, Missoula, those inversions will be staying in place. We're talking upper 20s to lower 30s. Missoula, if those inversions stay a little bit stronger, there is a potential, like today, we may struggle to get out of the 20s. Kalispell, I think that's a much harder reach. So we're likely going to be starting 2026 in the 20s, and then Missoula may do the same. But our fog potential after tomorrow will start to diminish. We are going to still see that potential of some locations of dense freezing fog overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. But as we head into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you notice that downward trend. That's as those inversions start to get mixed out with the high pressure ridge getting broken down, all thanks to our next storm system. So jumping into Future Tracker, it's got the idea that we're going to stay quiet, may see some high clouds start to move in tomorrow morning, a little bit of fog, of course, up into the valleys of northwest and west central Montana. Clouds will begin to increase further as we get late morning, midday time frame, maybe even a few showers up here in far northwest Montana up towards Troy, Libby, the Yak Valley. Not expecting too much in the way of impact from those. But watch as we go later on into the afternoon. Models have been a little bit more aggressive in the amount of moisture moving in by, say, 7 to 8 o'clock tomorrow. Most forecast models were showing this system not arriving until we get into the early morning hours of Friday. But now it does seem like we may see a little bit more of that into Thursday night, late Thursday evening into Friday morning. So a little bit of an increase in speed with this storm system. Now you see the moisture relatively isolated to scattered in nature. Snow levels will initially be around, say, 3,500 feet, 4,000 feet with this outside of southwest Montana, but they will quickly rise upwards to around 4,500 to nearly 5,000 feet as this system moves in and we see a warm nose of air start to work in. As that does so, temperatures will likely be warming in a few locations in southwest Montana as we get into the overnight period, maybe staying a little bit more consistent in nature. But watch how this moisture starts to fill in, and it's our valleys west of the divide, because of those inversions and the cold air that's in place, that we'll have to keep a very close eye on the amount of rain that we see. This could be falling as some freezing rain. That would create some very slick conditions as we head into Friday morning. You'll notice the snow levels, or at least more of the greens and pinks showing up on the radar outside of southwest Montana as we head into Friday morning, especially with this second wave of moisture that rolls in. One thing that the model is hinting at, and this could help areas along US 93 out, is some downslope flow that would evaporate some of that moisture, may limit the amount of freezing rain potential that we have. But areas along Highway 200, US 2, and then Highway 56 are a little less likely to have that benefit of that downslope flow and evaporation. So those areas could be dealing with some concerns, especially into the valleys west of US 93. But even along the stretch from the Flathead Valley all the way down to the Bitterroot Valley, freezing rain will be a possibility. As we go through Friday, snow levels will continue to increase, and you see that moisture is still sticking around. Really, at this point, as we get into Friday evening, snow levels will be 6,000, maybe even 6,500 feet. So another very mild system moving in. I think by the time we get into Friday evening, our freezing rain potential will be done and will be pretty much over to rain in most of our valleys, as we see another wave of moisture moving in Saturday afternoon and into Sunday. But then there's some more question marks from there. One note that I do want to bring up, and just because of how much cold air is still hanging on to northwest Montana, there is the potential that this Thursday night into Friday morning activity, even though we're seeing this as green and that potential for freezing rain, there is also the potential that we see more of a sleet and snow mix up across northwest Montana, that we don't transition that all over except for a brief window. So still some question marks of what we are going to see, but it's something to keep a very close eye on. As for our mountain passes, and I don't know if do I have this pulled up? I don't have this pulled up, but just a quick note. With the snow levels rising up over 6,000 feet, we will see an early window in this where we could see some minor travel impacts over our passes, especially for tomorrow night and into Friday morning. Really looking at a dusting upwards to about 3 inches for our passes. This is going to be the case area-wide, not just, say, those along the state line or along the divide. On passes, a dusting upwards to 3 inches do look common before we see that primarily transition over to rain outside of the highest passes, looking at, say, Lost Trail Pass that sits over 7,000 feet. But I've been bringing up the precipitation type pretty much. So I do want to show this little explainer of different precipitation types and why we're kind of going to see a little bit of all of this as we go in. So in this case, and that's exactly what's going to be going on, we have cold air down at the surface that's going to be 32 degrees or colder, especially for our valleys west of the divide with those inversions in place. As warm air from the Pacific starts to move in with this storm system, it's going to override this cold air that's more dense. It stays closer to the ground. And this is why we could see all of the above with that transition, as that warm nose gets a little bit closer and closer in. We may see it start off as snow, then transition over to sleet as the warm air gets a little bit thicker in the higher levels of the atmosphere. That cold air still down at the surface. As it continues to push a little bit further into our region, then that cold air gets very narrow right at the surface. That's the window where we could see some freezing rain, and that's where we could be dealing with our biggest concerns. It may be just a brief window as well, but it only takes a light glaze on the roads to cause all kinds of havoc for travel as we head into Friday morning. Before that cold air gets pushed out of the area, temperatures continue to warm, and we're primarily going to be stuck in this warm air outside of our highest elevations, where it will stay a little bit cooler. So this is kind of just a rough graphical explanation of how we could see each one of those precipitation types as we go over the next 48 hours or so before we transition over to rain in our valleys and snow up in our mountains. Now, like I mentioned, we have this first wave tomorrow night into Friday morning. We'll see a little bit of a diminishment in the activity into Friday afternoon, maybe another wave Saturday morning. But then Saturday night really into Sunday morning, and then Monday, we're going to see some scattered showers sticking around. This is the look as we get into Sunday morning early, primarily looking at snow in the higher elevations of southwest Montana, still dealing with that valley rain, mountain snow mix to begin the second half of the weekend up into northwest and west central Montana. Maybe as we get into Monday and Tuesday, a cooler system starts to move in, bringing those snow levels at least closer to valley floors. But I think for the most part, we're going to be looking at another rain-snow mix as we head into next week. But temperatures will be gradually falling as we really begin 2026. So that's pretty much everything that I had for this evening. Last chance if you have any questions or comments. Key takeaways for tonight and the next couple of days. Tonight, valley inversions west of the divide keep that fog and low cloud potential in place. Could see a few slick spots on bridges and overpasses, especially places like US 93, I-90, US 2, Highway 200 into northwest and west central Montana, and maybe even US 12 up towards Lolo Pass. There is even the potential we see a little bit of freezing rain as those snow levels rise, even for some of our mountain passes before the snow transitions over to rain all the way into Friday afternoon. The heaviest of this activity, which really isn't going to be all too heavy. This should all stay as relatively light moisture, be it rain, sleet, freezing rain, or snow, will be relatively light in comparison to what we could be dealing with. And that's going to be late Thursday night, but especially into Friday morning, before a lot of that moisture slowly starts to taper off into Friday afternoon. Another wave moves in for Saturday, and then we'll have to watch that next storm system that moves in Sunday into Monday, as we could see those snow levels slowly start to fall. But right now it does look like we won't see those back down to valley floors until we get to maybe the middle parts of next week, and there's still plenty of time to watch that as we go nearly a week out. So that's pretty much everything I had. One other note, with those temperatures warming into this weekend, places like Bozeman, we could be back into the low 50s once again, looking at temperatures about 20 degrees above average for Saturday, still looking at 47 degrees on Sunday. So plenty of warm air down in southwest Montana to begin 2026. A little bit cooler back off to the west, but in general, still looking at those temperatures into the 40s for most places for this weekend, with that chance of some spotty showers moving into the region. So with that, I will wrap up. Thank you again for tuning in for this evening, and thanks for a wonderful 2025. I hope you all have a happy new year, and I will see you all in 2026. Certainly tune in for our live broadcasts tomorrow as we ring in the new year. I will not be here, so I will be off for the day, so I will be back on Friday, and I'll likely do another one of these YouTube live updates for Friday as we can look at what we can expect for the weekend, and then moving on again through that first full week of 2026. So again, Happy New Year, everyone. If you have any photos or videos of the fog, or even some of your New Year's celebrations, certainly feel free to share those with us at nbcmontana.com/chime-in. Hope you all stay safe and have a great close to 2025 and a wonderful start to 2026. With NBC Montana, I'm meteorologist Mitchell Combs.